Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into a really common and honestly frustrating challenge that a lot of businesses are facing with AI. You feel like you're doing all the right things, but you're just not seeing that real transformation. We're going to break down why that happens and give you a powerful way to think about moving past it.
So let's kick things off with a story. It's about a VP of AI strategy we'll call Alex. He'd been rolling out a major AI initiative for about 14 months, and he was pretty sure it was a huge success. That is, until a senior executive hit him with a pretty harsh dose of reality.
Oof. Can you imagine hearing that? You're in a quiet executive meeting, and that one sentence just captures this massive lurking problem. After months and months of hard work, you've got these impressive stats, you've got everyone on board, but the actual business impact, it feels kind of minor. Like you just bought everyone a slightly better spell check. And Alex, well, he didn't really have a good answer.
I mean, look at this on paper. It all seemed perfect, right? 900 people are using the new tools. You've got 74% utilization. Those are metrics any project manager would kill for. But deep down, Alex knew the executive was right. The fundamental work people were doing hadn't actually changed. And that is a classic sign of being caught in what we're going to call the swim trap.
Okay, so to really get what was happening to Alex, and let's be honest, what might be happening in your organization too, we can use this really powerful way to diagnose where you're at. Are you sinking, swimming, or swarming? So first up, you've got the organizations that are sinking. These are the folks who are basically just bolting AI onto their old processes and hoping for the best. They're treating it like a new feature on an old product, not a totally new way of working. They're fundamentally refusing to change how work actually gets done. Then you've got the organizations that are swimming. And this is exactly where Alex's company was. People are using the tools. Sure, things are a little bit faster. Utilization numbers look great. It feels like you're making progress, but it's not transformative. That phrase, fancy or autocomplete, is the absolute perfect description of a company that's just swimming. It's not a failure, but it is a trap. And finally, you have the organizations that are swarming. These are the ones who've stopped just adding new tools and have started completely redesigning the work itself. The roles, who's accountable, the very definition of what's valuable. They're building this amazing thing called collaborative intelligence. And this is where the real durable competitive advantage is born. So here's the crucial point, right? The difference between these three isn't just about how many people are using the tools. It's about a deep, fundamental shift in how you think about your business. Swimming feels like you're making progress, and you are, kind of, but you're really just heading for a ceiling, not a launch pad. So why is it so incredibly important to break out of that swimming phase and get to swarming? Well, the actual measured data tells a very, very clear story about the return you get on your investment. And get this isn't some future projection. This is what's happening right now. As you can see, the organizations that just add tools are swimmers. They see about an 11% productivity gain. Not bad. But the swarmers, the ones making those big, holistic shifts to their structure and their skills, they see gains of up to 37%. That is a more than 3 times difference in impact. It's a whole different ballgame. Okay, so if swarming is so great, why don't more companies just do it? Well, the reason it's so incredibly hard to escape that swim trap is because you're not just solving one problem. You're actually solving two, and most companies only ever see the first one. On the surface, you've got what we call the organizational layer. This is all the stuff you'd expect: workflow design, governance, processes, you name it. But way down deep, underneath all of that, there's a much more personal problem: the individual layer. This is all about what this AI shift means for people's professional identity, their sense of purpose, their feeling of value at work. And this quote just brilliantly nails that core anxiety. The executive who called AI a fancier autocomplete, he wasn't really just talking about technology. He was voicing this deep, unspoken fear about what his people are for now. All those senior professionals who are using the tools but aren't exactly enthusiastic, they're all quietly asking themselves this very question. It's not a tech problem. It's an identity crisis. So how do you solve both of these layers? Well, it turns out you need a very specific two-step approach. And what's really critical here is that you have to do them in the right order. Okay, so step 1 is what we'll call the sprint. This is where you build the architecture. You pick a specific high-impact workflow and you completely redesign it. You solve that big organizational problem first. Then comes step 2, being human. This is where you build the capability. equipping leaders with a new mindset and directly taking on that critical identity shift we just talked about. And let me be really clear about this. That sequence is absolutely non-negotiable. Structure first, then capability. You have to create a safe, approved, clearly defined space for people to even practice a new way of working. You can't just walk up to them and say, "Hey, change your mindset," if they're stuck in a system that forces them to work the old way. You have to change the system they work in first. So what does this new behavior actually look like in practice? Well, it's this fundamental shift from being an author to being an architect. The author, they supervise every single step, they rewrite every word, they're in the weeds. But the architect, they design the objective, they define the constraints, and then they evaluate the final outcome that the AI produces. That shift right there is what unlocks that massive game-changing value. And all of this brings us right back to where we started, with Alex's problem. How in the world do you justify this to executives who are, very rightly, demanding to see a clear return on all this investment? Well, this framework gives you a whole new narrative for your leadership team. Instead of talking about how many people are using the tools, you can start showing them measurable signals about the outcomes. You can walk in and present a redesigned workflow with clear, auditable accountability, proving there's a real difference in the results. This isn't just another project update. It's a template for scaling real transformation. And that's a story your CFO can understand and really get behind. So I guess the big takeaway here is to ask yourself that very question. Are you just helping your people draft emails a little bit faster, or are you fundamentally redesigning the work itself to create value that no one, not a human, not an AI, could ever produce on their own? Because that right there is the difference between just swimming and truly swarming.